Very good to have you with us this morning. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. Thanks for getting your Tuesday started with us. We're going to begin our show with President Biden stepping out on the global stage here in New York, perhaps for one of the last times. A little later this morning, he will deliver his fourth and final address to the United Nations General Assembly.
His speech to world leaders comes amid a host of global challenges. That includes wars in the Middle East and Ukraine, plus the growing threat of the climate crisis. More than 140 heads of state have descended upon the city this week, which is keeping law enforcement and the Secret Service busy pulling out all the stops to keep the meeting safe. NBC News White House correspondent Mike Memoli joins us now to talk more about all this. So this is, you could say, one final hurrah for President Biden here at the UN. What can we expect to hear from him? And you sort of say, this is sort of like the long goodbye we're witnessing
Absolutely,
right now.
Especially with a lot of world leaders who he's known for decades, right? This speech to the General Assembly is always sort of like the State of the Union address for foreign policy. So there's going to be somewhat of a laundry list aspect to what the president lays out today, talking about the range of global challenges we face. But the overarching theme, I think, is going to be one that has underscored President Biden's entire outlook for foreign policy. When he was a senator for 36 years, including the chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee, vice president for 8 years, and now president for 4, which is the idea that we have so many challenges facing us as a world, that all these problems are so steep that no one country can tackle it alone. You need to work together with alliances. And he's also going to talk about the strength of democracies in working together to deal with these challenges on things like climate change, on global food insecurity, and yes, on some of the biggest challenges we're going to be talking about a lot this week, which are the situation in Gaza and, of course, the war in Ukraine.
Yeah, so what do we expect to hear from him about Israel's campaign now in Lebanon as well? And more broadly, what have we heard from the administration on this?
Administration officials, including the president, keep calling on both sides, especially Israel at this moment, to avoid taking steps that might further escalate the situation, especially in Lebanon right now. Again, the theme of alliances is so important, and working with our partners. That's why the president, before he came up here, talked to the president of the United Arab Emirates. Here's a little bit of what the president had to say after that discussion.
I've been briefed on the latest developments in Israel and Lebanon. My team is in constant contact with their counterparts, and we're working to de-escalate in a way that allows people to return to their homes safely.
Now, there's a lot on the president's schedule this week, but it's interesting who he's not meeting with. At this point, there's no meeting scheduled with Prime Minister Netanyahu, who will be here later this week to address the assembly.
That is an interesting point. Speaking of the long goodbye, last night President Biden was honored with the Clinton Global Citizen Award. I have to imagine that meant a lot to him.
Well, this was so interesting because I was there. It was originally just supposed to be an event. The First Lady was speaking with Chelsea Clinton about women's health. It was a little bit of a surprise that President Biden even showed up to surprise his wife. But then you see the Clintons had a surprise for the president, giving him this award. It really was something that you could see the emotion on the president's face as President Clinton was talking about how it's not just what Biden has done in office, but the way he's done it. The president returned the favor, talking about how much of a fan he was of the Clintons. And he had a very personal moment with Secretary Clinton. You know, it's been a difficult few weeks since he announced he wasn't going to run. And he said he really wanted to thank Secretary Clinton for all that she's done for him. Imagine the private conversations they've been having over the last few weeks. But he said, I love you. It was really quite a moment.
Oh, that's great. Mike Memoli, good to have you here in New York. Thanks for joining us.
So great to have you on set. Well, let's bring you more on the situation in the Middle East, where an evacuation is underway in southern Lebanon as people try to flee north to safety. Israel is expanding its assault on Hezbollah, striking dozens of targets in the latest cross-border attacks. This escalation is stoking fears of a broader Middle Eastern conflict as more U.S. troops will deploy to the region in the coming days to assist Americans looking to flee. This comes a day after Israeli airstrikes targeting the militant group. Lebanese health officials say those strikes killed almost 500 people and wounded 1,600 others. That made Monday the deadliest day in the country in nearly 2 decades.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu took the step of issuing a rare evacuation order and a strong warning to the people of Lebanon on Monday.
I have a message for the people of Lebanon. Israel's war is not with you. It's with Hezbollah. Don't let Hezbollah endanger your lives and the lives of your loved ones. Don't let Hezbollah endanger Lebanon.
NBC News international correspondent Raf Sanchez joins us now with more on this. Raf, good morning. Tell us about where you are right now and the latest attacks overnight.
Savannah, Joe, good morning. We're in one of the communities in northern Israel where a Hezbollah rocket came crashing through Israeli air defenses. It landed in the middle of a residential street. I just want to walk you through the scene here. The rocket actually landed right here. You can see workers are, as we speak, repaving, recobbling this place. But this rocket spraying shrapnel all over the area. Some houses very severely damaged, not from a direct impact, but from just the fragments of that rocket flying off. Now, nobody has been killed on the Israeli side of the border since this escalation began a couple of days ago. That is not the case in Lebanon. Health officials there say more than 500 people have been killed over just the last 24-plus hours. That is, as you said, by far the deadliest day in Lebanon since the end of the last war between Israel and Hezbollah back in 2006. You might be able to hear the crashing as this is kind of an active work site. Israeli strikes are continuing in Lebanon today. They seem to be at a lower tempo than they were yesterday when there were well over 1,000 strikes. But the big question at this point is how and at what scale will Hezbollah respond, and will Israeli forces move into Lebanon on the ground? Guys.
Just an incredible scene behind you there, Raf. Despite the high number of casualties in Lebanon, as you mentioned, you say it, the IDF says strikes aimed at Hezbollah targets in the region are not over. Do we have an idea of what the next phase is going to look like?
So, Joe, the Israeli government has said the goal here is to create conditions for Israeli civilians displaced from their homes on this side of the border to go back. And they say the only way that can be achieved is if Hezbollah fighters are pushed away from the border. And the big question is, can that be done from the air, or will it be the case that we see Israeli forces rolling over the border into Lebanon as they did in 2006, as they did back in 1982? I spoke to two Israeli members of parliament who came to visit this scene earlier today. One of them is from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's party. The other is from the opposition. And I asked both of them, is Israel about to invade Lebanon on the ground? Neither of them would rule that out. So the whole world, including the White House, watching to see what this next Israeli move will be. Guys.
Raf, we have seen the Prime Minister warn the people of southern Lebanon to evacuate. It seems like many are trying to do that. What kind of humanitarian situation are we looking at on the ground? Do people have somewhere to go?
It is just a dire situation, Savannah, and it has escalated so quickly. You are seeing thousands of Lebanese families packing what they can into their cars, getting on the highways and fleeing north, trying to get away from the fighting. Israel says it is doing what it can to minimize civilian casualties, that it has warned Lebanese civilians to get out of harm's way. But there are dozens of children who were killed in yesterday's strikes. Dozens of women have been killed also. And you are seeing mounting criticism around the world that rather than escalating in Lebanon, what Israel should be doing is focusing on getting to a ceasefire in Gaza, getting the hostages home, and trying to calm the overall situation here in the Middle East. Guys.
Raf Sanchez, thank you so much for your reporting. Please stay safe.
Back stateside, federal prosecutors are revealing some chilling new details about the man accused in that apparent attempt to assassinate former President Trump at his Florida golf course. NBC News correspondent Jesse Kirsch has more on the alleged plot.
Federal prosecutors revealing in the month leading up to his arrest, Ryan Ruth repeatedly showed up near former President Donald Trump's South Florida home and golf course. Authorities say the 58-year-old was in the area for one reason only: to kill former President Trump. A new filing alleges months ago, Ruth gave someone this handwritten letter addressed to the world, which says in part, "This was an assassination attempt on Donald Trump, but I am so sorry I failed you." Prosecutors say last Sunday, Ruth hid here in a sniper's nest next to Mr. Trump's golf course until a Secret Service agent spotted Ruth along the unsecure fence line, saw the barrel of a rifle aimed directly at him, jumped out of the golf cart, and fired at Ruth.
This evil would-be assassin got within a few hundred yards of where I stood.
Driver, walk straight back!
Prosecutors say 2 additional license plates, 6 cell phones, and 12 pairs of gloves were found in Ruth's getaway vehicle, along with a list of some of Mr. Trump's upcoming appearances. In federal court, a judge ruled Ruth will remain behind bars while awaiting trial. So far, he faces 2 federal weapons charges, but prosecutors say they'll soon present evidence of an attempted assassination charge to a grand jury. In a statement, the former president saying he does not trust the Department of Justice and FBI to investigate, writing they have a conflict of interest since they have been obsessed with getting Trump for so long. An FBI special agent said he is not aware of any surveillance video showing Ruth holding that rifle at the scene. The agent also said there has not yet been any handwriting analysis completed linking Ruth to that concerning letter.
All right, Jesse Kirsch, thank you.
We are also getting a better idea this morning of what voter turnout might look like on Election Day.
NBC News just put out a new poll that shows half of all likely voters do plan to cast their ballots early.
For more, let's bring in NBC News senior political editor Mark Murray. Mark, good morning. So yes, half of all voters say they're planning to cast their ballots early, but the numbers, they are showing a big split over who they are voting for. What can you tell us?
Yes, Savannah, this looks a lot like 2020, of course, during the COVID pandemic, where our poll shows about half of voters say that back then that they would end up voting early, either by mail or by in-person ballot. But what is striking is Republicans overwhelmingly are Election Day voters, and the early voters are overwhelmingly Harris voters. And that pattern played out obviously in the 2020 race too. And so, there has been a concerted effort by Republicans to try to vote early. The Republican National Committee wants their voters to vote early, but by and large, Trump voters seem to be Election Day voters, according to our poll.
So, Mark, I mean, this is nothing new. History tells us this is a pretty common trend. Why is there this rift between Democrats and Republicans when it comes to voting early?
Yeah, it all has to do with Donald Trump, Joe. You end up looking at the rhetoric that he ended up having going back to the COVID pandemic, casting doubt and aspersions on early voting, on mail-in ballots. And that had an effect where his voters and his fans said, hey, I'm going to wait until Election Day to vote. And we saw a pattern play out in 2020, Joe, where the states, the ballot releases that came from the early vote were overwhelmingly Democratic, overwhelmingly pro-Biden. And then the Election Day releases were overwhelmingly Republican and overwhelmingly Trump. And our poll shows that at least right now, that same kind of dynamic might end up playing out in November.
Looking at these numbers, do you think that they point to viewers kind of generally feeling less enthusiastic about voting for the former president?
Yeah, Savannah, our poll actually, when we gauge enthusiasm and election interest, our poll shows almost a kind of a tie between Republicans and Democrats on which party is more enthusiastic. This is all about voter intent, how you're planning to cast your ballot. Are you going to vote early or are you going to vote on Election Day? And, I think that to me, the biggest consequence of this is for us, just like we were in 2020, to once again be prepared that we're going to have these wild swings, that when counties and states release the early ballots and the early votes, they're going to be overwhelmingly Democratic. And then when they release the Election Day ballots, they might be overwhelmingly Republican and Trump. And of course, we're going to continue to watch this dynamic play out. But this seems to be the case 2 months before the election.
Mark Murray, as always, we appreciate you. Thank you.
New FBI data shows that crime dropped nationally between 2022 and 2023.
According to the agency's annual Summary of Crime in the Nation report, it includes murder and other violent crime. This comes as preliminary numbers for 2024 are also seeing a decline for the early part of the year.
NBC News Justice and Intelligence correspondent Ken Dateline joins us now with more on this. Ken, good morning. So walk us through this latest FBI data. What other types of crime are falling and which kinds are rising?
Good morning, Joe and Savannah. This report looks at crime across the board, and it shows that violent crime declined by 3% over the last year, and murder declined by a stunning 11.6%. That's the largest single-year drop ever on record. It also showed that property crime is down. The only category of crime that it shows being up significantly is auto thefts. And what's more important than any single-year trend is that this reflects a multi-year trend. After crime spiked during the pandemic, it's really gone back down to pre-pandemic levels of around 2019, which historically is extremely low compared to, say, the 1990s. Much fewer violent incidents, many fewer murders. And just last year, there were 2,500 fewer murders than there were the year before, guys.
Ken, crime is, of course, a big issue for voters. It's been one specifically of former President Trump's ways of sort of attacking Vice President Harris and the Biden administration. First, let's listen to some of what he had to say last month. He was campaigning in Michigan here.
We're here today to talk about how we are going to stop the Kamala crime wave that is going on at levels that nobody's ever seen before. Since Comrade Kamala Harris took office, her administration's crime statistics show she's presided over a 43% increase in violent crime.
So first, first can fact check that for us, but then also tell us what else both candidates have been saying since then about crime.
So, Savannah, it's just not true. It's not based on a fantasy, though. Donald Trump is cherry-picking some numbers from a Justice Department survey that tries to measure both reported and unreported crime. But during COVID, they couldn't survey people at home, and they got very strange numbers in 2020 and 2021. They said that crime was declining when actually murder was skyrocketing. This survey doesn't measure murder. And so Donald Trump is comparing 2020 to later years and showing this huge rise in crime. Most experts you talk to say that's just not the case. And in fact, if you want to just look at murder, because you can argue that many crimes aren't reported, every murder is counted in this country. Murder has plummeted from its highs in 2020, guys.
So, Ken, big picture, how does the public perception of crime tie in with these facts, with this data? And what do officials say these numbers mean?
So Joe Biden, Attorney General Merrick Garland, they've obviously celebrated this historic decline in crime. But more important than politicians, look, Americans just don't believe these numbers. Polls have consistently shown that. A few months ago, a Gallup poll showed that 77% of Americans believe that crime is still rising. And when you ask experts and criminologists about this, they blame local news coverage, which has been really a phenomenon for decades. If it bleeds, it leads. They also blame, though, social media. If you're on sites like Nextdoor, you only hear about the packages that were stolen. You don't hear about the ones that were delivered. So there's a real perception problem, but the data doesn't lie, and the data shows that violent crime is declining, guys.
All right. Ken Delaney and Ken, thank you so much.
Well, the gunman who shot and killed 10 people at a supermarket in Boulder, Colorado 3 years ago has been sentenced to 10 back-to-back sentences of life in prison without the possibility of parole. 25-year-old Ahmad Alyssa will serve one sentence for each murder count after a jury rejected an insanity defense and convicted him of murder. Alyssa was found guilty on all 55 charges against him, including 10 counts of first-degree murder for the assault in March of 2021. He used a semi-automatic pistol to open fire on people at the grocery store before police shot him in the leg and arrested him.
Take a closer look at the potential tropical cyclone system developing in the Caribbean and how it might impact your week.
Angie Lassman's with us in studio with your morning news now weather. Hey there.
Hi, guys. This is going to be something that we watch closely with potential widespread impacts across parts of the southeast and specifically Florida over the coming days. We, of course, have plenty of tropical alerts up. Notice where those hurricane watches have just been added, parts of the Big Bend area stretching down to the Gulf Coast of Florida. So these are the alerts that we have right now. But here's the current situation. We've got kind of this unorganized area of thunderstorms that is what we're calling potential tropical cyclone 9. That means that we likely are looking at some intensification and a tropical storm developing here as we get going through the rest of your day. But as for right now, winds are at 35 miles per hour and it's moving northwest at 8 miles per hour. Here's the current track. There's that tropical storm developing here as the day goes on. But notice what happens by the time it exits the northwestern Caribbean Sea and works into those very warm Gulf waters. We've been talking about this all season long. The Gulf is just basically fuel for any system that's going to spend an extended amount of time over it or even a short amount of time. We likely will be looking at rapid intensification happening with this system before it makes landfall. Now, that means that we'll likely be looking at a Category 3, a major hurricane making landfall in the state of Florida. Where exactly the center of that system is, well, that's to be determined, and we'll get kind of a better viewpoint of what that exactly looks like as the next couple of days goes on. But right now, anywhere from the Panhandle through the Big Bend area and down to the west coast of Florida, specifically the Tampa area and points north of that, that's where we're looking for the center of that system to make landfall. Beyond that, it will, of course, weaken as it spends some time over land, but it's still going to have widespread impacts. One thing about this system is it's going to be quite large, so those impacts are going to be far-reaching, not just when you have a really small storm. Most of the worst of it is closer to the core. This is going to be quite expansive. So one of the things we're going to watch for, of course, the heavy rainfall. We'll see localized amounts up to 10 inches in some spots. And again, that's spread across much of the southeast. Notice the storm surge forecast right now, 10 to 15 feet. Of course, this is really dependent on where that center of the system comes on shore, but impressive nonetheless. We'll likely see those storm surge impacts, even if the center of it goes up towards the Big Bend area, down towards Tampa Bay. That'll be something that we'll have to watch for at least some storm surge impacts. On top of that, the winds. We're likely going to see the downed trees, the downed power lines. This will be an issue, again, closer to the center center will be the worst of the winds, hurricane force winds. But you'll notice places like Cedar Key, peak wind gusts could be upwards of 90 miles per hour. This is going to be something we deal with here as we get through the later parts of your Thursdays when we're looking at landfall. But again, those impacts will last over the next couple of days. Now, big picture look otherwise, besides the tropics, we've got a system that's working through the Ohio and Tennessee valleys, and that's where we're going to watch for some thunderstorms today, guys. A little bit of rain we'll have to deal with, and that severe risk, again, focused Kentucky, West Virginia. We're mainly looking at some wind gusts and some hail, but the tornado threat is low.
I saw a little rain yesterday, and I was like, what's this?
Just a little bit.
Water from the sky.
It's been a long stretch in New York City without rain. Came to an end yesterday.
I like your outfit.
Yeah,
you got the memo.
It's like we called each other.
Yeah, we did not. Thanks, Angie.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.